Now, many people start the journey to build an audience. This video is about why most people will never really get their audience to grow. Now, I've grown many audiences in the past for myself and for my clients. And before we get too far into this, I think it's important to state that you don't necessarily need a massive audience to start generating sales. The size of the audience is less important. What matters more is the rate at which the audience is growing. And perhaps more importantly, how it's growing. And we'll get more into that in a minute. So if you're growing an audience and you're in business and you're looking to get more attention for your products and for your services, this video is for you. My name is Pat and I help people get clients using inbound lead flow. I grew up in the 80s and my brothers and I back then, we really loved slapstick comedies. Things like Three Stooges and Three Amigos, stuff like that. And there's this underrated moment in the piss your pants funny comedy classic, Pure Luck, where Martin Short and Danny Glover find the back of their Jeep precariously hanging over the edge of a cliff. And as the car starts sliding, Danny Glover, like dead serious, quickly jumps up and over the bonnet. And he says to Martin Short's character, Proctor, quick, get up, jump over the hood. It's life and death, so he needs to move fast. And Proctor looks at him directly in the eyes and he says, you're right. And then he proceeds to take his time to methodically collect his things and pack his little bag, just chewing up precious time. And Danny Glover's character starts panicking and like pleading, like, Proctor, what are you doing? And Martin responds like defensively, like, well, I'm getting my things together to prepare to be able to jump up and over the hood to safety. And that then leads to a fight scene, which is hilarious. Now, if you've seen the film, you're laughing along with me. But if you haven't seen the film, I'm sure I described that in a terrible way. But I hope it helps you imagine that scene. And it's a perfect example of what business owners get wrong when it comes to growing their audience. They procrastinate and they don't do the things that they know they need to do. Why do we do this? Why do we procrastinate doing the stuff that we know we need to do? In my work, I see smart people with tons of experience fail to get their business to really take off. And then I see new, humble newbies watch their business take off like rockets. So what makes the difference? In almost all cases, it's marketing, because the marketing is like the rocket fuel that lets the thing take off. Business building comes from generating leads and closing sales. The more volume quality leads you get, the faster you bring in cash. The faster you have resources to solve problems, the faster you can grow. So let's talk about lead flow. Now, apart from outreach and word of mouth, the largest driver of lead flow will come from your content. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're running ads or whether you're just doing everything purely organic. You're going to need content in some form or another. So the challenge boils down to content. And if your audience isn't growing, there's a very strong chance it's because you're overcomplicating making your content. You're overcomplicating the process. And because it's overcomplicated, we build resistance to do the things that we need to do. And then this stunts growth, and then it stops growth completely. And this lack of growth after doing all that work discourages us, and that makes the process of making content even more difficult. And it's just a vicious cycle. Now, part of the problem is perfectionism and our skills not living up to our standard of excellence. But we also might do this because we're not confident in our own abilities. For example, you might be a skilled professional and people pay you a lot of money for your help and for your expertise. But the content you put out fails to land, and you see this mismatch and you feel embarrassed, and you kind of think to yourself, well, I'd rather not have any content at all out there if it's going to be that quality, because you think it won't sit properly with the right people that you're trying to attract. This is a lie. Now let me explain. And hopefully this will once and for all shatter this false belief and light a fire inside of you. All right, so audience building is the most difficult at the very start. Now you might think it's because your content isn't that good, or because you've got no audience and so it feels like you're sticking everything out into an empty room or into the abyss. But these aren't the real reasons why it's so difficult. No, the hardest part at the start is being able to produce content without needing validation. That's it. If you need your feelings validated by the responses you get from your content, you will fail at audience building. But if you can let go of your need for validation and simply treat content creation like a big experiment, then you will begin to crush it. You will get better at it. You'll attract the right people. You'll get leads more and more until one day you have more leads coming in than you have ability to serve. And here's where we get to one of the coolest things about audience building, and that is a small audience is your one-time only secret weapon. So people fail building an audience because they need their feelings validated and their small audience demotivates them. But what they don't realize is that having a small audience gives you an incredible freedom that you won't have anymore once your audience grows. With a small audience, you can make mistakes and no one really cares. With a small audience, you can experiment with different forms and different styles. With a small audience, you're not locked into any niche or any industry. And you don't have to worry about coming across stupid, because if your content is crap, then literally hardly anyone will see it. But if it's good, then people will see it and like it and engage with it, and your audience will start to grow. And I get it. People are hesitant to start, to just get those first few pieces out there, or to really lean into audience building, content creation, because they feel like they're not really happy with the quality of the stuff they're making. And I know, the first video I made, I felt like I was putting this thing out in Cannes Festival, and that all my critics would judge me, and that my family would see and laugh, and that my friends would disown me. But do you know what bad stuff actually happened? None of it did. If your content sucks, not only will no one like it, engage with it, but the best thing is no one will even see it. So you kind of have nothing to worry about. While you're getting better and practicing and doing the process and getting good at the skills and learning how to do the different parts to make the content the way you want to make your content, no one's going to really see it anyway. But the ones that do see it and decide to click and follow along, that's how you start building your true fans. So instead of growing an audience by growth hacking and trying to spam people to get them to follow you and ask people to follow you, instead of growing it that way, which is going to scoop up people who really shouldn't even be in your audience in the first place, you're doing it the correct way by just letting the algorithms do their job, letting people find you and come to you. And there's ways you can speed up the process and make it happen faster, but the whole point is it comes down to your content being interesting. And you only get a chance to become interesting when you know how to make it. And you only get a chance to know how to make it when you go through the process a few times and you get used to it and you can lean into it and you can start sharing the stuff that you've learned over these years in a way that's true to yourself. Because when you're being true to yourself, that's attractive. People love that. You can show some vulnerability. You can be funny. Just be yourself. This can come through in your writing and also in your video. But the one thing, that's two. The one thing that will stop you is if you can't figure out how to get your validation and your motivation some other way. This whole content thing, once you find your stride, it's such a freeing feeling that you can lean into. You can lead in the world through your content. It's wonderful. If you can find your motivation from other things in life, you'll be able to push through the dip. And if you can get your validation from other things in life, you'll be free and able to experiment and find your rhythm. And if you can keep the feedback loop tight and the creation process simple, you'll be able to get the flywheel moving in just a few months, ultimately growing an audience that will be able to serve you for years, if not decades. Your business offers will come and go. You'll change them as you evolve and as your skills evolve and as your understanding of the marketplace changes and grows. Your audience, if you grow your audience and you continue to grow your audience and you don't give up, your audience will become one of the most valuable assets that you have. All because you are able to figure out how to get your validation and motivation some other way. Now, if you're growing an audience, but you feel like you're getting less reach than you wish you were getting, you're going to love this next video. It's where I share the truth about the algorithm that you wish you knew sooner. I'll see you in the next video.